Hello, honey. Yes, honey, I'm on my way to the rehearsal studio. Are you already at the office? Danielle was currently talking to her boyfriend, Derek, on the other line. She was hurriedly walking toward the studio in downtown Los Angeles because today was their final practice for the runway show happening tonight. No, hun. Actually, I'm heading there too. I'm already on my way. Dad called a last-minute meeting, and he's there now, Derek replied. Really? Your dad's there? So, I guess I need to make a good impression. Don't worry, honey, I'll shine. You won't be embarrassed, Danielle responded, now feeling a surge of excitement because she would finally meet the father of her beloved boyfriend. Okay, honey, see you later. I'm driving now. I love you. Okay, honey, be careful, and I love you. Moments later, before Danielle could even enter the studio, her temper flared. She was splashed with dirty water from a janitor mopping nearby. She was wearing a white outfit, so she couldn't help but scream in anger. What the? You're so careless. Don't you have eyes? Danielle shouted at the old man, who was startled by the incident and clutching his mop tightly. Ma'am, I didn't mean to. I didn't know you were behind me, he stammered. You didn't know I was behind you? How stupid are you? You should be fired for being so incompetent. Do you know how much this outfit costs? Even a year's worth of your salary wouldn't cover it. You're useless. Fueled by intense anger toward the poor old janitor, Danielle grabbed the bucket of dirty water and, without hesitation, poured it over his entire body. Just then, Derek arrived. Danielle was studying at a prestigious university in Los Angeles, where most students came from wealthy families. Derek came from a prominent family in the business industry. He had never experienced financial hardship. Everything he wanted, he got. But he wasn't just a typical rich kid. He was also intelligent and had ambitions to make a name for himself. Meanwhile, Laura's life was the opposite of Derek's. She came from a modest background, and despite her beauty, she never used her looks to get ahead. She worked hard at her studies and, to cover her tuition, took part-time modeling jobs. It wasn't a glamorous job, as many might think. She wasn't a famous model, but an ordinary one, called upon only when opportunities arose. Sweetie, come on, my treat for coffee, Derek invited Laura, who was engrossed in a book she was reading. They were at a small campus park in L.A. since both their classes had ended. Sweetie, it's you. In 20 minutes I have to head back to the lecture hall. Professor Daniels allowed me to take a makeup exam since I couldn't attend this morning. I was super late, so she's giving me a chance this afternoon. Maybe we can grab coffee later, sweetie. Is that okay? Laura asked softly. Of course. No worries. That's more important than hanging out. I'll wait for you here, Derek replied calmly. Thank you, sweetie. I love you, Laura said. They had been together for 7 months now, and Derek loved Laura deeply. Despite hearing judgments from others that they didn't belong together, because Laura was from a humble background and Derek was wealthy, they didn't let it bother them. What mattered was that they loved each other and were happy together. They often spent time together on campus, studying side by side. Derek was always there to support Laura, especially when she was exhausted from work. He knew her life wasn't easy, so he made sure she felt she wasn't alone. He didn't care what others, especially his family, who disapproved of their relationship, thought. Sweetie, sometimes I wonder what would happen if you got tired of this setup. I can't match your world, Laura once mentioned while they sat on a campus bench. Derek took her hand and looked at her seriously. Laura, I don't love you because of your status in life. I love you because you're you. You don't need to match my world because I'm already happy in our world together. Laura smiled at his words, knowing he meant them, and despite her fears about the future, she chose to believe in their love. A year later, they both graduated with degrees in business management. Laura continued modeling while job hunting, while Derek was being trained by his father to become the next CEO of their company. "Derek, son, there's no one else to inherit my properties, especially this company, but you. That's why I'm sharing all my knowledge about business with you now," Mr. Arnold said to him while seated in his office in downtown LA. Derek looked at his father and gave a slight smile. "Dad, I know this is a huge responsibility, but I want you to know I'm ready to learn. I don't just want to continue our business. I want to expand it. You're my idol, and I want to emulate how you handle people with humility." Mr. Arnold smiled at his son's response. "That's what I want to hear. Business isn't just about money, son. It's about trust, relationships with people, and staying strong in the face of challenges. If you want to be a great CEO, you need to know that decisions aren't always easy. Sometimes you have to sacrifice something for the greater good." Derek nodded, knowing his father was right and certain that this is what his late mother would have wanted too. "How did you manage everything for so many years, Dad? How did you build such a huge business?" Derek asked. Mr. Arnold took a deep breath and looked out the window of his office overlooking the city skyline. "It wasn't easy, son. I failed many times, got cheated, and lost my way. But one thing I learned: never give up. Business is like a game, but one where the stakes are sweat, blood, and time. Being smart isn't enough. You need to know how to deal with people. The strongest entrepreneurs aren't just the richest, they're the ones who can rise after every fall." Derek was impressed by his father's words. He knew he had much to learn, but was determined to carry on his family's legacy. "Thanks for teaching me everything, Dad. I won't let you down. I'll do things right." Mr. Arnold smiled again and stood up. "I know you won't disappoint me, son. But remember, business isn't everything. Family and the people you love are your true wealth. Don't let work consume you, and forget those who matter to you." Derek agreed with his father's reminder. "By the way, I'm putting you in charge of our modeling agency for now. I have staff there to guide you. None of them have seen me. You know, as a CEO, I like to stay mysterious and private. You'll take care of things there, son. I know you can do it." Derek's mind raced with possibilities. Now that he was being entrusted with the family's modeling agency, he knew he'd be closer to Laura's world, not just as her boyfriend, but as someone who could help her dreams come true. "Dad, are you sure I'm ready for this?" Derek asked, a hint of doubt in his voice. "I know about business, but the modeling industry is different from the corporate world." Mr. Arnold laughed and patted his son's shoulder. "Son, no one becomes an expert right away. What matters is that you trust your abilities. Besides, I'm here to guide you." Derek nodded, letting out a deep breath. "Thanks, Dad. I'll do everything not to disappoint you." "That's what I want to hear," Mr. Arnold replied. "And one more thing, son. If there are opportunities to help Laura, do it. Not just because she's your girlfriend, but because she deserves it." Derek felt warmth at his father's words, knowing he wasn't joking. Not only would Laura benefit, but so would many aspiring models dreaming of recognition. The next day, Derek arrived early at the modeling agency's office in Hollywood. From the glass wall of the office, he could see models practicing their catwalks, while others were busy with photo shoots. His eyes searched for Laura, and soon he spotted her sitting to the side, wiping sweat from her forehead after a shoot. Derek smiled. Laura didn't yet know he was the new head of the agency, and he wanted to tell her at the right moment in a way that wouldn't make her feel her presence there was only because of their relationship. Soon, the operations manager approached him. "Mr. Derek, welcome to the agency. Are you ready to start?" Derek nodded. "Yes, I want to see how the whole system works. I also want to meet the people who make this agency run." "You're such a great boss, sir," the manager said, pointing toward where other employees were. That night, Derek called Laura. "Hello, sweetie," she answered, her voice tired but happy. "How was your day?" Derek asked. "It was okay. Tiring but fun. You know, there are so many projects at the agency right now. Luckily, I have a decent schedule," Laura replied. Derek smiled, knowing she was unaware he was now running the agency. "That's great to hear, sweetie. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, sweetie," Laura said. "All right, I'm going to rest now. See you tomorrow." "Of course. Take care and good night." "I love you," Derek replied. "I love you too," Laura answered. After the call, Derek looked at the papers on his desk. Reports, model schedules, and other important agency documents. He knew he had a lot to learn and fix, but one thing was clear in his mind. This was the start of a new chapter in his life, not just as a business heir, but as a man ready to support the woman he loved to the best of his ability. The next morning, Derek was already at the agency's office, eager to fully understand its operations. It wasn't like the businesses he'd studied in college. This was an industry of art, talent, and connections. He needed to learn how it worked, not just in terms of profit, but also in terms of the people who made it happen. In the conference room with the operations manager and other department heads, they presented the company's current status, active projects, model roster, and potential brand expansions. As he listened, Derek noticed Laura's name was barely mentioned in major projects. "Excuse me," he interrupted an executive's report. "Why isn't Laura Anderson in any of the top-tier projects?" Several people in the room exchanged glances. The operations manager hesitantly answered, "Well, sir, Miss Anderson is talented, but she's not that well known yet. She often gets gigs in commercial modeling and minor fashion shows, but she hasn't been in major runways." Derek looked at the papers in front of him. He knew Laura had talent. He'd seen how she worked, trained, and strived to improve. "Give her a chance in the next big projects," he ordered. "I want to see how she performs in a high-profile event." Some employees raised their eyes. A senior talent coordinator asked, "Sir, does this mean we'll push Miss Anderson as one of the agency's rising models?" Derek nodded. "Yes, and not just her. I want us to have a program for lesser-known but highly potential models. It's better if our agency gives them their break, instead of always spotlighting established names." He noticed the faces of some staff light up, as if many had long wanted change. After the meeting, Derek went down to the studio, where an editorial shoot was happening. He stood to the side, watching models pose for the camera. Moments later, he saw Laura heading to the backstage, clearly having just finished her session. He smiled, observing her without her knowing he was now in charge. He decided not to tell her yet, wanting to see how she acted without feeling awkward around him. Soon, Derek's phone rang. It was Laura. He answered with a smile. "Sweetie, where are you?" she asked. "Nearby," he replied, deliberately not mentioning he was inside the agency. "How's your day?" "Tiring but fun. We just had a shoot earlier. I hope my next project is bigger, though. I need more exposure," Laura said. Derek smiled, knowing he already had plans for her. "Your chance will come, sweetie," he said. "I'm sure it's close." "Thanks, sweetie. I'm just so happy you're always with me on this journey." Derek glanced at Laura from a distance. She didn't know yet, but now more than ever, he was there. Not just as a boyfriend, but as someone ready to support every step of her dreams. In his mind, one thing was clear. Their relationship wasn't just about love. It was a partnership where they'd both strive for success together. Meanwhile, as Derek left the agency for an outdoor business meeting, the operations manager gathered all the models in the studio to announce the new management's decision. Most were excited, especially those who hadn't had chances at big projects. The operations manager stood in the center of the room and spoke loudly. "There's a big change in the agency's management. By Mr. Derek's orders, we'll have a new program to focus on emerging models. those not yet well known but with great potential. The crowd exchanged glances and murmured, clearly eager for the news. And one of the first to be given this opportunity is Laura Anderson, the manager said directly. The room fell silent. A sharp glare came from Danielle, the agency's most in-demand model. She was clearly displeased with what she heard. What? Her voice was firm and intense as she spoke, drawing everyone's attention. It was no secret that Danielle was known for her arrogance, manipulativeness, and tendency to step on other models to stay on top. She stood from her seat and approached the operations manager. "Why her?" she demanded, her tone unyielding. "Why do we need to include her in major runways? She hasn't proven anything." Some models whispered, clearly expecting this reaction from Danielle. "Danielle, it's not just Laura. We'll have a new batch of top models exposed to bigger projects," the operations manager explained carefully, but Danielle wasn't swayed. "I'm not stupid, Annie," she said with a bitter laugh. "You named her first, which means she's the priority in that batch. I don't know, but isn't that kind of insulting to those of us who've been working here for years? Why does she get to cut in?" Tension filled the room. Some models looked uncomfortable, while others showed slight satisfaction. Many had long disliked Danielle for her arrogance and overly competitive nature. "No one's cutting in," the operations manager responded firmly yet calmly. Mr. Derrick himself decided to give more opportunities to new models with potential. You, Danielle, have been in the spotlight for a long time. This doesn't mean you're being replaced. They just want to expand the agency's roster. Danielle struggled to respond. She wasn't used to sharing the spotlight and certainly wouldn't allow Laura, whom she saw as unproven, to steal her scene. "Let it be," Danielle said coldly, flashing a fake smile. "We'll see if she can keep up." Then she left the room, head held high, but her anger was clearly burning inside. Once outside, she grabbed her phone and called someone. "That damn Laura! I don't want anyone stealing my spotlight. Do something about it." Unbeknownst to her, a few models overheard her. One shook their head and whispered, "Looks like trouble's coming." As Danielle walked away, the models in the room remained silent, knowing this wasn't over. They knew Danielle wouldn't easily accept a rival, especially since she was considered the queen of the agency. It didn't take long for her to return to the dressing room with a few models who acted like her entourage. She carried herself with superiority, and it was no secret she loved bullying other models, especially newcomers. Upon entering, she spotted Laura organizing her things in a corner. Danielle smirked, as if a new toy had entered her territory, one she wanted to break before it became a real threat. "Hey, Laura," Danielle said with a sweet smile, but a tone dripping with sarcasm. "I heard you're the new queen of our agency, huh? That's some pressure." Laura looked up, clearly surprised by her words. "What? There's no such thing," she replied, unaccustomed to the attention from Danielle. "Really?" Danielle circled her like a predator, sizing up its prey. "But the boss said you're the new big thing. That means you're getting special treatment. It also means models who've worked hard here for years are suddenly being overshadowed." Other models in the room glanced over, some listening quietly, others whispering. Laura didn't respond. She wasn't one for conflict, and knew that no matter what she said, Danielle would have a comeback. But Danielle wasn't done. She approached Laura and looked her up and down. "You know, I don't get why they want to push you. I mean, you're pretty," she said, with a saccharine smile that was clearly mocking. "But you're too plain. There are so many more deserving than you." One model, Jenny, who'd long been annoyed with Danielle, spoke up. "Danielle, no one said Laura's becoming the queen. She's just being given an opportunity. You're still the top model. What's your issue?" Danielle turned to Jenny, her eyes blazing with anger. "What did you say, Jenny? Who are you to butt in?" she snapped. "Want to get kicked out of the agency? Don't forget, you're just an extra here." Jenny flushed with embarrassment but didn't respond, knowing she was no match for Danielle's sharp tongue. Danielle turned back to Laura, stepped closer, and deliberately spilled water on Laura's bag. "Oops, sorry," she said, feigning carelessness. "It's just so cluttered here. Next time, don't leave your stuff in the way." Laura stared, but chose to stay calm, knowing Danielle wanted her to react so she'd look like the villain. "You, Laura," Danielle continued, "better be ready for this game. If you think you can just walk onto the stage and rise in this industry, you're gravely mistaken." The room fell silent again. Everyone knew a bigger storm was brewing, and Laura was the new target of the agency's fiercest bully. After that incident in the dressing room, Laura didn't say a word. She knew arguing with Danielle was pointless, especially since Danielle was known for stirring trouble and belittling others. Instead, she focused on her work and finished her remaining shoots for the day. While changing backstage, a few colleagues approached her. "Laura, are you okay?" "Danielle's so harsh, isn't she?" Jenny asked, still upset about earlier. Laura gave a small smile, trying to hide her exhaustion and frustration. "I'm fine. I'm used to her attitude by now." "Ugh, I don't know why Danielle hasn't been fired yet. She acts like she owns the place." Another model, Trina, chimed in. Laura didn't respond, choosing to stay quiet, especially since fueling Danielle's anger would lead nowhere. Besides, she didn't want to add stress for Derek. She didn't know why, but she felt an overwhelming heaviness. Deep down, she just wanted to go home, rest, and forget what happened. But no matter what she did, she had a gut feeling that Danielle's drama was far from over. The next morning, a lively buzz swept through the agency. "Our new boss is introducing himself today." Everyone was excited, especially the models hoping to get noticed. Meanwhile, Laura felt confused and uneasy, a nervous knot in her chest. Her unease grew when she noticed Danielle's unusual cheerfulness. "Oh, Laura, you seem nervous," Danielle said sarcastically, pretending to be kind. "Maybe you're not used to big-time bosses, huh?" Laura gave her a faint smile and didn't respond, knowing it was better not to engage. Moments later, the operations manager arrived and called everyone to the conference hall. "Okay, ladies, the moment you've been waiting for, meet our new boss." Danielle smirked and quickly fixed her hair, certain she'd be the first noticed, but she wasn't prepared for what happened next. The door slowly opened and a familiar figure walked in, tall, handsome, with a confident presence. Laura's eyes widened. It was Derek. Before she could react, he walked up to her and, in front of everyone, gently kissed her forehead. It was like a bomb went off in the room. Danielle, unable to believe her eyes, trembled with rage and frustration. "What? No way she's with the boss," she thought. After that unexpected scene, gossip spread like wildfire through the agency. Everyone was whispering, shocked that Laura, the quiet, simple model, was the girlfriend of the new boss, Derek. Meanwhile, Danielle was seething. She couldn't accept that Laura, whom she'd always belittled and mocked, was now the center of attention, and with the man she wanted for herself. She refused to let it slide, and that's when her real game began. The next day, before the sun had fully risen, Danielle had a plan. She used her influence over staff and fellow models to start making Laura's life difficult. While Laura was in the dressing room fixing her hair for a test shoot, she noticed her heels, the exact pair needed for the shoot, were missing. "What the? They were just here," she said, frantically searching. "Oh, Laura, always looking for something. Maybe you didn't bring them, or maybe you can't afford new ones," Danielle said sarcastically, approaching with her two lackeys, Mika and Joyce. Laura knew what her tone implied, but chose to find another pair of shoes instead of engaging. But the sabotage didn't stop there. During the shoot, as Laura walked toward the camera, someone tampered with her dress. A strap suddenly tore, nearly exposing her in front of everyone. Thankfully, she quickly grabbed the fabric and covered herself. "Oh my God, Laura, what a cheap dress. You didn't even check it," Danielle said, pretending to be concerned, but her face dripped with mockery. Other models looked on, but no one dared speak. They knew Danielle was behind it, but lacked the courage to confront her. Laura forced herself to stay composed, smiled at the photographer, and continued the shoot as if nothing happened. But deep down, she knew this wouldn't be the last. Days passed, and Danielle's bullying grew bolder. During lunch breaks, she ensured Laura had no seat in the cafeteria. "Looks like there's no space here, Laura. Maybe eat outside," she'd say with a smirk, while her lackeys giggled. Once, a photographer chose Laura as a fresh face for a high-end campaign. But before Laura could prepare, Danielle influenced the client to pick her instead. "Laura might not handle it. I'm better suited for your concept. Sophisticated, elegant, not for amateurs," Danielle said smugly to the client. Though hesitant, the client replaced Laura. The worst came after a group shoot where Laura was included. Danielle secretly instructed the stylist to remove Laura's name from the featured models list. When the official campaign was released, Laura was shocked to see none of her photos in the final cut. She didn't know how, but she was certain Danielle was involved. Despite all the bullying, Laura stayed calm. She refused to stoop to Danielle's level. She hadn't told Derek about it, but she knew the day would come when she could no longer stay silent. After an exhausting week at the agency, Derek and Laura finally had a chance to spend time together without work looming over them. They chose to dine at a private restaurant with a stunning view of the LA skyline at night. While waiting for their order, Laura couldn't hold back the question she'd been wanting to ask. "Derek," she began softly, playing with the glass of water in front of her. Derek replied, smiling as he looked at her. "Why didn't you tell me you were our new boss?" she asked directly, meeting his eyes. Derek scratched the back of his neck and chuckled lightly. "I planned to tell you right away, but I wanted to observe how you worked first. I didn't want others to think there was favoritism. I also wanted to see how you got along with your colleagues." Laura paused, thinking. "So, you've seen it?" Derek nodded and took her hand across the table. "Yes, and I admire you even more." Laura blushed slightly. "You're still annoying, you know that?" she said playfully, rolling her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. Derek laughed. "I know, but I just want to tell you I don't care what others say. You're the one I want. If others have a problem with that, that's their issue." Laura's heart softened at her boyfriend's words. She hadn't expected Derek to understand her situation at the agency so deeply. As they ate, their conversation lightened, momentarily forgetting work troubles. But in the back of Laura's mind, she knew she needed to tell Derek about Danielle's actions. She hadn't shared the incidents because she didn't want to seem like a tattletale. She wanted to achieve success without others thinking it was just because of her connection to Derek, the agency's owner. So, she brushed it off and set it aside for now. Meanwhile, the day of the agency's big event arrived, a grand fashion gala attended by invited VIPs, investors, and well-known industry figures. Everyone was busy preparing. The models were dressed, the production team was backstage, and the lights danced across the lavish stage designs. Laura was one of the models chosen to walk in the main segment, which infuriated Danielle. She knew Derek always noticed Laura, and now she feared losing her place in the new boss's eyes. "She thinks she's so pure," Danielle muttered to her fellow jealous models. She didn't know who she was dealing with. Danielle planned to ruin Laura in Derek's eyes, using malicious gossip and a carefully orchestrated setup to portray Laura as a cheap, low-class woman. While everyone was busy with the event, Danielle spoke to a middle-aged businessman, also an invited guest and an agency investor, known for his fondness for beautiful women. "Sir, let me introduce myself," Danielle said flirtatiously, handing him a glass of wine. "Do you know Laura, one of the main highlights earlier? Word is, she's game for any deal as long as there's something in return." The man raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Oh, yes," Danielle said, pretending to whisper. "That's how she got in here, you know. She has older backers. Haven't you noticed how she always gets special treatment?" The man grew intrigued by Danielle's words. That's an interesting idea. She's beautiful and seems fresh. When can I meet her?" Danielle smiled and whispered her plan. Moments later, while Laura was backstage preparing for her runway walk, an assistant approached her. "Miss Laura, someone's looking for you. It's an important guest at the event, in the VIP lounge. He wants to talk briefly before your walk." Though puzzled, Laura nodded. She knew investors often wanted to meet models for potential endorsements, so she didn't think twice. Upon reaching the VIP lounge, she found the older businessman, the same one Danielle had spoken to. "Good evening, Miss Laura," he greeted with a grin. "You're even more beautiful up close." Laura felt uneasy, but smiled politely. "Thank you, sir. How can I assist you?" The man smirked, stood, and approached her. "You know, I've wanted to meet you for a while. It's a shame we didn't talk sooner." Laura swallowed hard, sensing an odd intention in his demeanor. "I'm sorry, sir, but I need to get back to the backstage," she said. But before she could leave, the man grabbed her hand. "Don't be so cold," he whispered. "I know you're not hard to deal with. I just want to offer you a great opportunity." Feeling his tight grip, Laura quickly pulled her hand away. "I'm sorry, sir, but I have work to do." Despite the festive atmosphere of the event, a dark plan was unfolding backstage. Danielle, long envious and angry at Laura, was ready to execute her malicious scheme. She wanted to destroy Laura's reputation and show Derek she wasn't respectable. The best way to do that was in front of a crowd. Moments later, the man pointed something at Laura, causing a sudden heat in her body. He approached and began rubbing her shoulder. "Laura, you seem uncomfortable. Don't worry, I'm here for you." Laura tried to stand, but she felt powerless. She looked at the man, unsure how to escape. "Sir, what's happening to me?" she whispered weakly. The man didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed her chin and slowly leaned in. Before Laura could pull away, he kissed her forcefully. Outside, the event host was speaking when the LED screen on stage suddenly changed. Instead of the planned model slideshow, a live video feed appeared, the scene from the VIP lounge. The guests, models, and staff froze as they saw Laura being kissed by the older businessman on the large screen. Chaos erupted. Some covered their mouths, others exchanged glances, and whispers began. "Is that Laura? My God, she's involved with an investor. I thought she was nice, but it seems she has other ways to get ahead." In the midst of the chaos, one person arrived, Derek. He'd just entered the event when he noticed the commotion. Seeing the monitor, his eyes widened. He saw what was happening to Laura, and fury blazed in his chest. To everyone, it looked like Laura was willingly kissing an older man, not resisting or fighting back. Derek didn't know how to react. In his mind, he thought, "What is this, Laura? Is this real?" As the hall descended into chaos, one person stood smirking in the corner, Danielle. "Mission accomplished," she whispered to herself. After the shocking scene, a deafening silence enveloped the hall. The once joyful celebration turned into a scandal. That day, Everyone was stunned, exchanging looks, and some quietly left. But not Derek. Furious, he stormed onto the stage and ordered everyone to leave. "Get out, all of you! The event is over!" he shouted firmly. People began to disperse, some stealing glances at Laura, who was still dazed, sitting in the VIP room with the businessman, who wore a smug grin. Derek rushed to the VIP room, immediately searching for Laura. There he found her pale, staring blankly, as if lost in her own world. "Laura," he called, but she didn't respond. The vibrant, cheerful Laura seemed like a frightened child, unsure of what to do. The businessman laughed. "Oh, here's the boyfriend." Derek's blood boiled. He strode over and before the man could say more, landed a powerful punch, sending him crashing to the floor. Instead of cowering, the man wiped the blood from his lip and smirked. "Looks like I hurt you, kid, but why are you mad? Your girlfriend and I have had a thing for a while, haven't we?" Derek looked at Laura, hoping she'd deny the man's words, but she remained silent as if she couldn't hear them. "Laura!" Derek shouted again. "Tell me this animal's lying!" Suddenly, Danielle chimed in, her voice feigning sympathy. "Mr. Derek, I'm sorry, but he's right. They've been together for a while. I've seen them together multiple times, and they only got caught now." Derek's vision darkened. "Laura, say something." But she stayed silent, unable to move. "See, she can't even respond," Danielle added, pretending to be sad. "Maybe she feels guilty." Derek's chest nearly exploded with pain and anger. He didn't know what hurt more, seeing Laura in that situation, or the fact that she couldn't defend herself in front of him. "I can't believe this," he whispered, his fists trembling. "Laura, I thought I knew you." With Laura still silent, Derek gave her a sharp look before turning and storming out of the room. As he walked away, he didn't notice the tear that fell from Laura's eye, the only sign she wanted to speak, but couldn't. That night, Derek didn't hesitate. In his anger, he ordered HR to immediately fire Laura. He gave no explanations and listened to no opinions. The next morning, Mr. Arnold called his son to his office. "Derek, are you sure about your decision to fire Laura?" he asked, leaning back in his chair with a heavy gaze. Derek didn't waver. "Dad, I don't want to talk about it. I know what I saw. I don't need to explain. I don't want to see her at the agency anymore." Mr. Arnold sighed. "I know you're angry, but sometimes what your eyes see isn't the truth. Don't be too hasty, son. Talk to her first." But Derek shook his head. "I don't care anymore, Dad. It's done." Mr. Arnold knew his son was stubborn, and though he wanted to stop him, he knew it was futile. From what he knew of Laura, he was certain she wouldn't betray his son. Meanwhile, Laura woke with a pounding headache and a heavy body, feeling something was off, but unable to recall what happened. Standing from her bed, she noticed she was in her apartment in a quiet LA suburb. But how? She couldn't remember how she got home. She tried to piece together the events of the gala, and slowly, the memory of the businessman, his creepy smile, and the strange heat in her body, before losing control, came flooding back. "Oh my God," she gasped, covering her mouth. "What did they do to me?" Panicking, she grabbed her phone, but before she could call Derek, messages and missed calls from friends flooded in. The most devastating was a message from the agency's HR. "Laura, your termination is effective immediately. Do not return to the agency." Her knees buckled and she sank onto the bed. She was in shock, learning from friends about the scandal that had spread. The entire modeling industry was talking about her, the image of the man kissing her, its display on the screen, and Derek's departure from the event after witnessing it, all over social media. She couldn't hold back her tears. "It's not true. I didn't want that." She quickly dressed and rushed to the agency. She wouldn't let everything she worked for vanish, especially not Derek's trust. At the office, the receptionist stopped her. "Laura, I'm sorry. Mr. Derek ordered that you're not allowed in." "I'm not leaving until I talk to him," she insisted. At that moment, the elevator opened and Derek stepped out, hands in pockets, his expression hard. He glanced at Laura but walked past her. "Derek!" she called, chasing after him, but he didn't turn. "Derek, listen to me. I don't know what happened. I can't remember anything." Her voice trembled. Derek paused and slowly turned to her. Beneath his cold stare burned anger. "You can't remember," he said, voice laced with resentment. "Laura, I saw what you did. Don't make a fool of me." "I didn't want to kiss him. I had no control over myself. I think they did something to me." But Derek gave a bitter laugh. "Is that so? If that's true, why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you do anything?" Laura bit her lip. "I don't know. It's like I suddenly lost control of my body." But Derek wasn't listening. "Enough, Laura. I'm done." Laura stepped back. "What do you mean?" He looked at her directly, his eyes filled with sadness and anger. "We're over." It was like cold water poured over her. "Derek, please, no." But he didn't budge. "I can't trust you anymore. No matter what you say, I can't forget what I saw. There's nothing to go back to." Before she could respond, Derek walked away, leaving her behind. Laura sank to the floor, sobbing. She had no job, no reputation in the industry, and no man she loved. Worst of all, she had no fight left. Nothing remained for Laura in the city. Her name in the industry was ruined, her job was gone, and the man she loved had completely rejected her. It was painful, but she could do nothing. Even if she tried to explain herself, Derek wouldn't listen. That night, alone, she packed her things. No word from Derek, no calls, no concern. It was as if, in an instant, she'd become a stranger to the man who once promised her love. The worst part was knowing something had happened to them both. In her heart, she'd believed their relationship would grow stronger because of it. But in the end, it seemed to mean nothing. As days passed, everyone noticed how Danielle was always by Derek's side. At every agency event she was there, seeking attention, offering help, and showing excessive care. At first, Derek ignored it. Despite the intense pain and anger he felt toward Laura, he wasn't thinking of entering a new relationship. But over time, Danielle's presence in his life became constant. During drinks with colleagues, Danielle was always beside him, giving attention he hadn't felt from Laura before. "Derek, why don't you try forgetting her?" Danielle whispered softly one night at a private gathering. "You don't deserve a woman like her. You're too good for her." The scene of Laura kissing the older man at the event flashed in Derek's mind, reigniting his anger. But alongside it, he felt a slight lightness in Danielle's presence. One night, during a conversation, Danielle leaned closer and took his hand. "Derek, I'm here. I won't leave you." Derek looked into her eyes. He said nothing but let the moment unfold. Then one day, big news broke. They were together. Derek had found new love, unaware that this relationship was also filled with lies, deception, and secrets that would one day bring him down. When Mr. Arnold heard that Danielle was his son's new girlfriend, he felt uneasy. Something about her didn't sit right. He didn't know why, but she unsettled him. Beyond that, he didn't like how Derek had treated Laura. He knew his son had acted rashly out of anger, and now it seemed he was making another mistake. Determined to act, Mr. Arnold devised a plan. He would disguise himself as a janitor at the modeling agency. This way, he could see firsthand what kind of person Danielle was, how she behaved behind Derek's back, and how she treated others. Conveniently, Derek was scheduled for a 3-week business trip to New York, so no one would interfere with his plan. The next day, Mr. Arnold arrived early at the agency in Hollywood, wearing a simple janitor's uniform, a polo with the agency logo, gray slacks, and a cap that hid most of his face. No one recognized him. He quietly observed, noting how employees were treated, how work flowed, and, most importantly, how Danielle acted. At first glance, she seemed perfect, beautiful, gentle, always smiling. But it didn't take long for her true colors to show. "Hey, you! You're so slow at cleaning. Don't you know dirty floors are unacceptable in a high-class agency like this?" Danielle snapped haughtily at a new employee cleaning the hallway. "Want to get fired right away?" Mr. Arnold watched silently from the side, unnoticed by Danielle, but he saw clearly how she mistreated those of lower rank. Later, another model, Emma, passed by. A rising star with many projects, which irritated Danielle. "Oh, Emma, congrats! You've got so many projects now," Danielle said, her tone laced with bitterness. "But be careful. Fly too high and you might crash." Mr. Arnold recognized this behavior, a person unwilling to accept defeat, ready to do anything to stay on top. Days passed, and Mr. Arnold's suspicions grew stronger. Almost everyone at the agency seemed to fear Danielle. Staff, fellow models, even some supervisors hesitated around her. What was this woman really doing behind the smile she showed Derek? One morning, while sweeping the hallway, Mr. Arnold overheard Danielle talking with two friends who also bullied others. "God, look at that," Danielle whispered, raising an eyebrow. "The floor's already filthy, and he can't even clean properly." She stopped in front of Mr. Arnold and crossed her arms. "Hey, old man, you're so slow. How did you even get hired here? Or maybe the agency was so desperate they'd take anyone." Mr. Arnold remained silent, continuing his work, but listening closely to her next moves. "Wow, this janitor's rude too. Doesn't know how to respect his bosses," Danielle said sarcastically. Her friends laughed. Not satisfied, she took an iced coffee from her assistant and deliberately spilled it on the floor near Mr. Arnold's feet. "There, clean that up properly, old man," she ordered, laughing. "Maybe you should kneel and lick the floor to make sure it's clean." Mr. Arnold's ears burned, but he restrained himself. He knew it wasn't time to reveal his true identity. He took a deep breath and kept cleaning, while Danielle and her lackeys continued mocking him. "Look at him, so big but such a coward, not even a peep, like a robot with no emotions," Danielle added. Other employees noticed but didn't dare speak. They knew Danielle could get anyone she disliked fired. In Mr. Arnold's mind, his mission intensified. Derek needed to know the truth about Danielle before it was too late. One night, while cleaning near the VIP lounge, Mr. Arnold heard soft voices inside. The area was dimly lit, and he knew no one should be in the office unless something secretive was happening. Cautiously, he positioned himself behind a large plant and listened. "Good job, Mr. Ortega," said a familiar voice that made Mr. Arnold frown. It was Danielle. "Finally, that woman's gone," she continued with a laugh. "Thanks for helping me ruin her in front of everyone." Mr. Arnold nearly held his breath, continuing to listen. "You know, my dear," replied Mr. Ortega, the same man involved with Laura that night, "as long as there's payment, I'll do anything. And I'm sure Laura won't recover from the humiliation, especially after we convince Derek she's a filthy woman." Danielle laughed again. It was so easy to manipulate him. Just one piece of fake evidence, and he believed it. Handsome, but so naive when it comes to women. Now he's mine. Mr. Arnold's blood boiled. He wanted to barge in and expose the truth, but he held back. It wasn't the right time. He needed solid evidence to bring down Danielle and Mr. Ortega. "But wait," Danielle said again. "Make sure no one finds out what we did, especially that janitor. You know, I've noticed he's always eavesdropping. He might know something." Mr. Arnold gripped his cap and stepped back slightly, knowing that if he were caught, his plan could unravel. "Don't worry," Mr. Ortega replied. "No one will get evidence against us. Laura won't come back to defend herself." "We've won," Danielle smirked, "and soon I'll be Mrs. Danielle Santiago." "What?" Mr. Arnold cursed in his mind. "Marriage?" Holding his broom, he quietly retreated from the door. He needed to act before it was too late. Back in his office, Mr. Arnold was no longer the humble janitor in a worn uniform. Now he was the powerful CEO, seated in his spacious office, wearing an expensive suit. He took a deep breath, slowly removing the glasses he'd worn as part of his disguise. Looking out the large window at the glittering LA skyline, he couldn't believe what he'd uncovered. "I knew you weren't right for my son," he muttered, gripping his forehead. His chest filled with anger. They had deceived Derek, his son. He wouldn't let this continue. Standing, he called his assistant. "Prepare all the evidence we can gather against Danielle and Mr. Ortega. I want everything ready by the time Derek returns from New York." "Yes, sir," his assistant replied swiftly, leaving him alone in the office. Determination burned in his eyes. His only thought was to save his son from a deceitful woman. Meanwhile, Derek had finally returned to Los Angeles after his 3-week business trip. Though tired from travel, he couldn't help but feel excited to return to the office and see Danielle. During his time away, he'd focused on business, meetings with investors, and exploring new opportunities for their company. Yet, no matter how busy he was, he couldn't shake the scandal that had upended his life and Laura's departure. Now back, he was unaware of the major revelation awaiting him. "Hello, honey. Yes, honey. I'm on my way to the rehearsal studio. Are you at the office already?" Danielle was talking to Derek on the phone, hurrying toward the studio in Hollywood for their final runway practice that night. "No, hun, I'm heading there too. On my way. Dad called a last-minute meeting, and he's there now," Derek replied. "Really? Your dad's there? Guess I need to make a good impression." "Don't worry, honey, I'll shine. You won't be embarrassed," Danielle said, now excited to finally meet Derek's father. "Okay, honey, see you later. I'm driving now. I love you." "Okay, honey, be careful. I love you." Moments later, before Danielle could enter the studio, her temper flared. She was splashed with dirty water from a janitor mopping nearby. Her white outfit was ruined, and she couldn't hold back a scream of rage. "What the? You're so careless! Don't you have eyes?" she yelled at the old man, who was startled and clung to his mop. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to. I didn't know you were behind me," he stammered. "You didn't know? How stupid are you? You should be fired for being so incompetent. Do you know how much this outfit costs? A year's salary of yours wouldn't cover it. You're useless." In her fury, Danielle grabbed the bucket of dirty water and poured it over the janitor's body. Just then, Derek arrived. "Danielle!" She flinched, quickly turning to Derek, her expression shifting from haughty to pitiful, like a child tattling to her boyfriend. "Babe, thank God you're here. Look at me. I'm filthy. This janitor deliberately splashed me with dirty water." She walked toward Derek, acting like a kid complaining to a parent. "This outfit was so expensive. How can I wear it to rehearsal now? He's so useless. He should be fired." But instead of siding with her, Derek's expression changed from shock to confusion, then hardened into something cold. "Danielle," he said, his voice deep and firm as he approached, "that man is my father." It was like cold water doused Danielle. Her knees weakened, and the world seemed to darken. She couldn't speak, unable to believe this was Derek's father. She turned to the janitor, soaked from head to toe in the dirty water she'd poured. "Mr. Arnold," she stammered, her voice trembling, clearly in shock. Mr. Arnold didn't respond, just stared at her, but beneath his gaze, she knew he'd seen her true colors. Derek clenched his fists and quickly approached his father. "Dad, are you okay?" he asked, concern in his voice, eyeing the dirty water soaking his father's clothes. "What are you doing here, acting like a janitor?" But Mr. Arnold didn't answer. Instead, he straightened his posture, took a slow breath, and fixed a cold, sharp stare on Danielle. No words left his mouth, but his look conveyed intense anger and disappointment. Though he hadn't spoken, Danielle's chest tightened with fear. She didn't know how to save herself from this situation. In Mr. Arnold's office, the air was quiet and heavy. His gaze was fixed on Danielle and Mr. Ortega, while Derek sat across from his father, visibly confused. The tension in the room was palpable. "Dad, what's going on?" Derek asked, unable to hide his bewilderment. Mr. Arnold leaned back slowly, interlaced his fingers, and looked sharply at Danielle and Mr. Ortega. Their nervousness was evident, especially Danielle, who fidgeted in her seat. "Derek," Mr. Arnold began, "there's something I need you to know, and I want you to listen carefully." He paused, then turned to Mr. Ortega. "You tell my son yourself, unless you want your situation to get worse." Mr. Ortega swallowed hard, clearly hesitant. "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb with me, Mr. Ortega," Mr. Arnold cut in, his cold voice like a blow to the man's ears. "I heard your conversation with Danielle myself. If you want any dignity left, tell the truth." Derek's forehead creased. "What conversation? What's this about?" "I swear, Mr. Derek, I don't know anything. Believe me, I wouldn't do that," Mr. Ortega said desperately, gripping the table as if ready to kneel. "Liar!" Mr. Arnold's voice was firm. "You drugged Laura that night, didn't you? That's why she couldn't defend herself. You toyed with an innocent woman's life for your greed." Back then, Danielle had destroyed the CCTV in that room, so there was no evidence. "What?" Derek's eyes widened. "Wait, Laura?" He looked at Danielle, a chill running through him. Danielle panicked. "That's not true. I don't know anything about that." "Don't make a fool of me, Danielle." Mr. Arnold's voice rose. "I know you've wanted to ruin Laura for a long time, and now you're the reason Derek's relationship with her was destroyed." "No, Laura's the liar. She's the one who went after that old man. I had nothing to do with it." Danielle screamed hysterically, no longer caring how pathetic she looked. "Enough!" Mr. Arnold slammed the table. "Your game's over, Danielle. All your lies are done. You're the filthy one here." Derek looked at Danielle, his chest growing heavier. "Tell me the truth, Danielle." She hesitated, still trying to lie. "I love you, Derek. I didn't do anything wrong. Please believe me." "Enough!" Derek exploded, standing and staring at Danielle as if he didn't know her. "I trusted you. I left Laura for you. I kicked her out of my life. But now you're saying it was all a lie?" He closed his eyes and shook his head, furious at himself. "I was so stupid. Derek, it's not like that. Get out, Danielle." She froze, unable to believe how quickly she'd been exposed. "Derek, please." "I said get out." Tears streamed down Danielle's face as she realized it was over. Mr. Ortega sat stunned, trembling, knowing he was in deep trouble. "You'll both pay for what you've done," Mr. Arnold said coldly. "I'll make sure of it." As Danielle and Mr. Ortega left the office, Mr. Arnold sighed and pulled out a USB drive. "Derek, son," he said seriously, "I know it's hard to believe all this, but I have something to show you." He plugged the USB into the computer and pressed play. CCTV footage from a private room in the agency appeared. In the video, Danielle and Mr. Ortega were secretly talking. "Good job, Mr. Ortega. You were great at acting. No one will defend Laura now." "That disgusting woman got what she deserved," Danielle said. You know she doesn't belong in our world, right? Exactly. She was so easy to frame. No one will believe her now. And you're definitely the queen of the agency, with Derek by your side. He'll never want to go back to that woman, Mr. Ortega replied. Right, and soon I'll be Mrs. Danielle Santiago. No one can stop me. Derek trembled with rage watching it, seeing how Danielle and Mr. Ortega planned to ruin Laura. It wasn't just gossip. They deliberately destroyed the life of the woman he loved. Damn it! Derek cursed, slamming his fist on the table. How could I believe her? How could I abandon Laura? Anger and regret were etched on his face. Mr. Arnold shook his head. She's a skilled liar, son, and you chose to believe what you wanted to believe. He leaned back, watching his son struggle to process the video. Derek, he said seriously, I humbled myself and posed as a janitor because I wasn't convinced about Danielle. I'm not easily fooled. I had a hunch she was hiding something, and I wanted to see what kind of woman she was. And I was right. All she thought about was destroying Laura and manipulating you to get to her. Derek couldn't speak. The woman he'd chosen over Laura, the one he'd fought for, was a traitor. He'd been played. He closed his eyes tightly, consumed by regret and anger at himself. I still prefer Laura, son, Mr. Arnold added. She never used anyone. She never destroyed anyone. Her heart is pure, but you left her defenseless. Derek swallowed hard, unsure how to face the truth. Derek clutched his forehead, battling the heavy emotions, regret, anger, pain. He wanted to apologize to Laura, to explain everything. But how? He didn't even know where she was. Damn it, he sighed, sinking into a chair, his hands trembling with frustration. He'd abandoned Laura when she needed him most, and now it might be too late to make amends. Meanwhile, outside the office, as Danielle and Mr. Ortega reeled from shock and fear, police arrived. Miss Danielle Monteverde, Mr. Ramon Ortega, we have warrants for your arrest. Come with us peacefully. Danielle's eyes widened. What? Arrested? She looked at Derek, hoping he'd defend her. Babe, tell them. It's not true. I'm not bad. But Derek gave her only a cold stare. I saw the proof, Danielle, he said firmly. You can't fool me anymore. She stepped back, nearly crazed with fear and frustration. No, this can't be happening. Derek, I love you. I'll do anything for you to forgive me. But she could do nothing as the police apprehended her. Mr. Ortega didn't resist either. As they were loaded into the patrol car, Derek stood by the window, his face emotionless. Mr. Arnold looked at his son. That chapter's closed, Derek. But what about the one you truly love? Derek gazed into the distance. I need to find Laura, no matter where, no matter what. Wasting no time, Derek ordered his team to find Laura. Wherever she was, whatever it took, he wouldn't stop until he found her. Weeks passed with relentless searching. He contacted acquaintances, sent people to various towns, and waited tirelessly for news. Then one day, the call he'd been waiting for came. Boss, we found Miss Laura. Derek's world seemed to stop. Where is she? In a small town in Northern California, boss. She's living quietly there and it looks like she's pregnant. Derek froze. Pregnant? Yes, boss. Her belly's big and it seems she's due soon. Derek was speechless for seconds before responding. Send me the address. I'm going now. At the bus terminal in the small town, Derek hurriedly stepped off. Before he could get far, a woman's loud cry echoed nearby. Help! A woman's in labor! He looked toward the sound and saw a small crowd. His heart raced, and for some inexplicable reason, he rushed over. As he approached, he froze, as if the air had been sucked out of him. It was Laura, lying on the ground, sweaty, pale, and visibly in pain. She clutched her belly, her eyes filled with fear and exhaustion. "My God, Laura," Derek whispered, barely believing his eyes. When Laura saw him, her eyes widened. She wasn't sure if the man before her was real or a hallucination. "Derek," she said weakly before wincing in pain. Without thinking, Derek knelt beside her and gently touched her face. "Don't worry, I'm taking you to the hospital." Amid the intense pain, Laura couldn't stop her tears. Why now? Why in this situation? Derek swiftly lifted her into his arms, running frantically, calling for help, while holding tightly to the woman he'd long searched for. "Hold on, Laura. I won't let you down." As he held her, he felt her weakening. He couldn't lose her, not again. At the hospital, nurses and doctors rushed to meet them. "Emergency! Get her to the delivery room, now!" As the staff wheeled Laura in, she grabbed Derek's hand, trembling, terrified. "Derek," she whispered, pleading. He held her hand and kissed it gently. "Keep fighting, Laura. I'm here. I won't leave you again." With that, Laura was taken into the delivery room, leaving Derek outside, pacing restlessly. For the first time in his life, he felt he wasn't the most important person. Inside that room, the two most precious people in his life, Laura and possibly his child, were fighting between pain and birth. Hours later, a small but strong cry echoed from the delivery room. "Congratulations, sir. It's a healthy baby girl." Derek didn't know how to breathe properly. His world seemed to stop at the news. A baby. He had a child with Laura. When the doctor emerged, carrying a tiny bundle wrapped in a white blanket, Derek approached. For the first time, he saw his daughter, small, serene, beautiful. His knees weakened as he reached out to touch her tiny fingers. When her little hand grasped his, tears fell. "My daughter," he whispered, unaware he was crying. In his entire life, he'd never felt such pure, unhesitating love. When Laura was moved to the recovery room, Derek entered. She lay quietly, clearly exhausted and weak, but her face was now calm. Beside her slept their daughter peacefully. Derek sat gently by the bed. "Laura," he called softly. She didn't look at him, staring at the ceiling, clearly avoiding him. Derek sighed. "I know I don't deserve to ask for forgiveness, but I want you to know I regret everything." Laura remained silent. Derek continued. "I know how much I hurt you, how I abandoned you when you needed me. I chose to believe others over you, and because of that, I lost you. I lost the chance to care for you, to be with you and our daughter." Laura's fists clenched, her face showing restrained emotion. "Derek," she said coldly, finally speaking, "why are you here?" Derek swallowed. "Because I looked for you. I couldn't accept losing you like that. I couldn't accept that I hurt you, that I left you." Laura finally turned to him, and Derek saw the pain in her eyes. "And what do you want to happen? That I forget everything you did to me? That I take you back like nothing happened?" Derek swallowed again. "Laura, I know it's not that easy, but I want to make it up, not just to you, but to our daughter." Laura gave a bitter smile. "Make it up? If you really wanted to make it up, where were you when I was pregnant with her? Where were you when I had nothing? When I had to work while she grew inside me? Do you know how many nights I cried in pain, hunger, and fear? Do you know how many times I thought of going back to you but couldn't because I knew no one would believe me?" Each word from Laura pierced Derek's heart like a blade. He couldn't blame her. Everything she said was true. He'd abandoned her, betrayed her. "I know, Laura," he said softly, "and no matter what I do, I can't change the past. But please, give me a chance to show you I won't let it happen again." Laura took a deep breath, holding back tears. "Derek, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can trust you again." Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. He knew he couldn't force her. Laura looked at their sleeping daughter. "But I won't keep your daughter from you. If you want to be her father, I won't stop you." Derek fell silent. Despite the pain of Laura's rejection, he knew this was the right start, a step toward redeeming his mistakes. When Laura left Los Angeles during those times, she carried only a few clothes, money that wouldn't last a week, and a heart shattered by pain and betrayal. She didn't know where to go, but one thing was certain: she wasn't coming back. She returned to her grandmother's small town in Northern California, where she'd grown up. There she lived quietly, far from the chaos of the city, far from the man she once loved, Derek. But she didn't know she was pregnant until she visited a local midwife, and her world collapsed. She was pregnant, and there was no one else who could be the father but Derek. Upon learning she was expecting, she didn't know what to feel: fear, nervousness, or anger. What now? She had no partner, no job, and worst of all, no father for her child. But despite everything, she couldn't bring herself to abort the baby. Was it the innocent child's fault? Number. And she'd never let her child experience the pain of abandonment. Laura endured all the hardships of pregnancy. She worked at a small bakery, kneading dough for rolls at dawn. Afterward, she sold vegetables at the market to make ends meet. Despite the exhaustion, she bore it all for her child. 9 months passed with no word from Derek. He hadn't looked for her, and that hurt her even more. Each day she learned to let go of her dream of a happy family. She would no longer hope. Days after giving birth, Laura was discharged from the hospital and settled into the small house she rented in the town. Despite her cold demeanor, Derek didn't give up. Even when she repeatedly told him to leave, even when she ignored him, he stayed by her side. After leaving the hospital, Laura returned to her quiet rented home, far from the city's chaos, where she planned to raise her daughter, Dinah. But now her peace was disturbed by someone who wouldn't leave her alone. While organizing her things inside, she heard a soft knock. She knew who it was, but didn't open the door. Moments later, "Laura, I know you're there." Derek's voice was soft but firm. "I know you can't forgive me yet, but I'm not leaving until you give me a chance." Laura continued caring for her daughter, cradling Dana and patting her back to sleep. For her, she and her daughter were enough. She didn't need anyone else. But minutes later, she heard rain outside. She paused. Could it be? She glanced out the window and saw Derek still standing outside her house, soaked in the rain, not leaving or seeking shelter. Laura clenched her fists. What was he trying to prove? After a while, she slowly opened the door. "If you want to get sick, go ahead," she said firmly. "I didn't ask you to wait." But instead of leaving, Derek gave a small smile. "At least you're talking to me now." Laura swallowed, looking away. "Please, Laura," Derek said, his voice serious now. "Let me make it up to you and her, even if you can't forgive me yet. I just want to prove I'm serious, that I'm not going anywhere." Laura looked at him silently. Part of her wanted to believe, but another part feared being hurt again. "I don't know, Derek," she said softly. "I don't know how to trust you again." Derek nodded, knowing it would take time to rebuild Laura's trust. But one thing was certain: he wasn't leaving their side. Days followed with the same routine. In the mornings, Derek would knock on their door, wait, and sometimes Laura would let him in. Not to talk, but to see and hold their daughter, Dana. While Derek busied himself entertaining their child, Laura kept herself occupied with household chores to avoid noticing them. But despite herself, she couldn't help glancing at them occasionally. Sometimes, she'd catch herself staring as Derek carried their daughter, smiling at Dana, whose face lit up seeing her father. She didn't know what she felt. Some nights, Derek stayed outside in the rain, refusing to leave despite her orders. She often told him he had no place in their lives, but he seemed determined not to listen, and though she wouldn't admit it, a part of her heart was slowly softening. One morning, she woke to Dana's joyful laughter. Looking out the window, she saw Derek sitting outside, holding a toy while Dana climbed onto his shoulder, giggling happily. Laura couldn't suppress a small smile. She realized it wasn't just about Derek repeatedly trying to win her trust. He was genuinely making up for the years he wasn't there for their daughter. In that moment, she felt something she'd long denied. She was starting to forgive Derek. The next evening, after dinner, Laura and Derek sat quietly on the small porch of the house. The cool night air seemed to ease their emotions, but inside Laura, something still gnawed at her. Derek broke the silence. "Laura, I want to talk to you properly. I won't force you, but I hope you'll give me a chance to explain everything." Laura looked at him. Her gaze wasn't as hard as before, but there was still hesitation. "Even if you don't say anything, Derek, I already know," she said softly but calmly. Derek nodded and gently took her hand. "Laura, I don't know how to make it up to you. I don't know how to atone for my mistakes, but I hope you can forgive me." Laura could no longer hold back her tears, not from pain but from the weight she'd carried for so long. "Do you know how hard it was for me, Derek?" Her voice trembled as she fought back sobs. "You left me. You didn't listen to me. You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself." Derek closed his eyes, battling the pain of his conscience. "I know, Laura, and I know I can't take back those times I wasted, but I want to make it up to you and our daughter." He took a deep breath and continued. "I've had Danielle and Mr. Ortega arrested. They'll never bother us again. The nightmare they brought to our lives is over." They locked eyes, filled with emotions words couldn't express. Slowly, Derek moved closer to Laura, as if asking permission, and finally, Laura met him, embracing him tightly as she cried on his shoulder. "I love you, Derek," she whispered between sobs. Derek tightened his embrace and kissed the top of her head. "I love you too, Laura, and I'll never leave you again." Under the quiet, starry sky, the bitterness of the past finally ended, replaced by a new beginning for the three of them, Laura, Derek, and their daughter. The next morning, Derek woke early to prepare for an important day. Today he would bring Laura and their daughter to the family mansion in Beverly Hills to introduce his beloved mother and daughter to Mr. Arnold. Laura was quiet in the car, holding their sleeping baby girl tightly. She knew this was important to Derek, but she still felt a slight nervousness. At the mansion, grand doors and a sprawling garden greeted them. Inside, Mr. Arnold stood waiting, clearly anticipating their arrival. Seeing Derek with Laura and their daughter, he couldn't hide his smile. "Son," he greeted warmly, then turned to Laura. "And you, Laura, I'm so happy to see you again." Laura nodded gently. "Good morning, Mr. Arnold." But when Mr. Arnold's gaze fell on the baby, sleeping in Laura's arms, his eyes sparkled. He approached slowly, almost in disbelief at seeing his granddaughter up close. "Is this my granddaughter?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Derek looked at Laura, who nodded gently. "Yes, Dad, this is baby Dana." Mr. Arnold reached out, and when Laura handed him the baby, he couldn't hold back tears. "He's so beautiful, and he looks just like you, Derek," he laughed, patting the baby's tiny nose. "But she's got a touch of her mother's beauty, too." Laura smiled, feeling the warmth of Mr. Arnold's acceptance of her and their daughter. He was overjoyed, not just because he and Derek had reconciled, but because a new light had entered their family. As they talked, Derek couldn't help glancing at Laura. His world was whole again. That night, watching his mother and daughter in their new home, he vowed never to let them slip away again. The next day, Derek wasted no time. He knew it was the right moment to do what he'd long wanted, to show Laura how much he loved her, and how certain he was that she was the only woman he wanted to spend his life with. As they walked in the mansion's garden at sunset, Derek stopped and faced Laura. "Laura," he said, his voice serious but filled with emotion, "I couldn't ask for anything more. You're the woman I love, the mother of my child, and the person I want to be with forever." Laura's eyes widened as Derek knelt before her, pulling out a small box. When he opened it, a stunning ring sparkled. "Will you marry me?" Laura clutched her chest, unable to believe what was happening. Months ago, their story was filled with pain. Now here was Derek, kneeling before her, offering love and a lifetime together. She couldn't stop her tears, but despite everything, she knew she still loved him. With trembling hands, she nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, Derek, I will marry you." Overwhelmed with joy, Derek stood and hugged her tightly. In that moment, all the pain and trials they'd faced vanished. What mattered was that they were together again. Weeks later, their wedding took place, a beautiful ceremony in a picturesque venue attended by loved ones. Laura wore a simple yet elegant white gown, while Derek was in a crisp white tuxedo, unable to take his eyes off the woman he was about to marry. As Laura walked down the aisle, a smile lit her face, and her eyes sparkled. She couldn't believe that the man she'd once loved, who'd once caused her pain, was now giving her the sweetest promise to be together forever. At the altar, they faced each other and exchanged vows. "Laura," Derek said, "I promise I'll never abandon you again. You and baby Dana are my life, and I will love you forever." "Derek," Laura replied, "no matter what we've been through, you're still the one I choose, and will always choose. I love you so much." In the end, before everyone, before the altar, and before God, their hearts reunited at the right time. After their kiss as husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause, marking the start of their new life, not just as partners but as a complete, loving family. After Derek and Laura's wedding, their life together as a family was joyful and peaceful. Laura never again felt sadness or loneliness, as Derek was always there to care for her and their daughter, Dinah. He made up for all his past shortcomings, ensuring Laura felt the love and respect he'd once withheld. Each day their home was filled with laughter and love. Despite the intense pain and trials they'd faced, they learned to trust each other again. Forgiveness wasn't easy, especially for Laura, but through Derek's love and persistent efforts to make amends, she learned to open her heart again. She realized true love isn't perfect and is full of challenges, but it teaches sacrifice, understanding, and forgiveness. Meanwhile, Mr. Arnold was overjoyed with his son's life. He not only welcomed Laura into their family, but also wholeheartedly loved his granddaughter. He knew his decision to test Danielle's true character was right, as it led Derek to change and truly value love. In the end, Derek and Laura's love triumphed. Despite all the pain and mistakes, they found their way back to each other, proving that it doesn't matter how many times you fall or err. What matters is your ability to rise, learn, and make amends to those who matter most. Now, as a happy family, they faced a new chapter together, filled with love, trust, and hope, to be continued. I would like to say a big thank you to one member of the Hope dynasty who decided to support me with a super thanks. If anyone else wants to send super thanks to encourage me and support my work, you can do so by clicking on the thanks button below this video. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's meet here tomorrow for the next episode. Until then, I love you all.